The studio is a great avenue to have more freedom and be more present as a mom.
Can you just kind of break down at a high level, how does a studio actually make money?
Yeah, so there's multiple ways. Another thing that I have learned is seasonal setups are great money makers, and those generate anywhere from like
Welcome back to the Sustainable Creator Podcast. We're here with Hannah today, who is a full-time brand photographer and studio owner behind Always Flourishing Photography. She's amazing. We actually had her come to our last content day for the Break Room, which is our membership for creative service providers, and she crushed the content. She got so much great content for our members, and a lot of what you see us posting on the Break Room feed, she probably took. So we love her work. We're so excited to talk with her today. It's largely going to be centered around running a studio because, spoiler alert, she just opened up her second physical location for a studio, and we can't wait to hear all about it. So welcome to the podcast, Hannah. We're so glad that you're here.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome.
Well, on top of that very nice intro that Joelle gave, if you were to take the 40,000 foot bird's view of what your business looks like, what would you describe the main parts of it?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in this big season of time freedom and setting up my business to allow me to live life how I want to, right? I feel like the whole point of not working a 9 to 5 is to live life. So I don't want to be in that grind 24/7. And so with that, right now, my big focus is having a rental photo studio. I'm going on 2 years of my first location, and I'm opening up a second one because big picture, that supports the life that I want to live. I'm also a mom, so I want to be able to have time freedom. And unfortunately, working with one-on-one clients with brand photography doesn't always allow that. And so the studio is a great avenue to open up that door to just have more freedom and be more present as a mom.
I was telling Lyndon earlier that it's been really cool to see how I think it was only 2 years ago that you were renting another studio and then decided to purchase your own studio. And now you're like doing the second. And I feel like so much has happened in the past couple of years, and to see the level of growth and how you have navigated all of it has just been really cool to watch. So
yeah,
I'm excited to dive in.
Sometimes I feel like I have zero chill. I don't know if that's just like the entrepreneur, but
we feel
at the same time, I just like think about the future and like what I want the next 5 to 10 years to look like. And like all of these decisions support that, you know? So I feel like that's what keeps me going. It makes sense to me, but other people might view me as like, wow, you're like doing all the things. You're crazy. I don't know.
Like, there's a method to the madness, guys.
There really is. There really is. I'm like, this is very strategic. I promise.
Yeah, I get that.
So I think if I start with the big picture question on studios, like you mentioned that you're in a time of finding time freedom for yourself. And so you have a studio, a physical location that you're renting out. For someone that hasn't really thought about owning a studio before, can you just kind of break down at a high level, how does a studio actually make money for you?
Yeah, so there's multiple ways. So I offer hourly rentals. So where every day, you know, I could have several renters come in and use the space to create. Then I also have subscriptions or memberships. So that allows you to kind of predict your income more long term. So I have a few people that rent on a regular basis. So that's a great option for them. I also have like studio rental add-ons. So this is a great way just to increase their spending. So what that would be like backdrops that they set up and tear down. But then also, you know, it's a great space for like content days or workshops. So some people come in and use the space for that, or I could host that. I recently did a content day with other business owners where we all came together, kind of did a collab. And then I also love dabbling into like UGC and brand deals and affiliate marketing. So I use the space personally to generate income for that as well. So there's like multiple ways that you can create income with a rental studio.
So that creates an interesting question for me is like oftentimes when I think of a photo studio, it's I'm going to rent it to other photographers. But you just kind of introduced like there's a number of other types of customers that would be interested in a space like this.
Yeah.
What for you, now that you have run a studio for a couple of years, like what would you put as like the main buckets of the type of customers that you can have for a photo studio?
Yeah, so I will say photographers are kind of like 80%, but I've been really pushing to show people, like business owners specifically, how they can use this space. So right now, I feel like content creation, reels are popping off, you know. So I encourage people like, let's get out of your house. Maybe you have a low light house, maybe you just need a space to feel creative in. So I encourage business owners, aka a lot of my clients with brand photography, like, hey, you can use this space outside of just getting your photos done. And so that's been a really cool way. I've had photographers host, you know, mini workshops or content days, styled shoots. I've had business owners come in and create courses. So they just want to get out of their house and have a place where they can just batch create the course, get it done. So there's like so many ways that you can use it. But come in, use your iPhone, shoot product photos. Like there are so many ways that you can use it without being a professional. And that's what I'm trying to show people and kind of, you know, open their eyes of like, you do not have to be a professional. You don't have to have camera. You can come in with your iPhone and create. And it's a great space for that too.
Love the integration of all of the
Yeah.
different facets of your business model. It plays so nicely together. I'm
Yeah.
curious on the flip side, because
Yeah.
you just broke down all the ways it brings in revenue.
Mhm.
What are some of the categories of expenses that are involved in running a studio?
Yeah, so I feel like the first year is kind of the biggest year of expenses, and then after that it just kind of flows. So the biggest, you know, expenses we have are like the startup of furnishing the space. So that's kind of like the big chunk. But once that's done and once that's paid off and you made your money back from there, it's kind of just profit, honestly. Obviously, you'll have, you know, replacing some seamless paper or kind of refreshing the space with, you know, maybe different plants or, you know, new posing chair, things like that. But honestly, it's pretty seamless. So right now, you know, on my first location, like that one is it's solid. I really don't have many expenses minus like rent, utilities, insurance, right? Your monthly overhead. And then the new location, obviously there's a lot of expenses with the startup costs. But after year one, you're pretty much smooth sailing and it's not there's not a whole lot to replace at that point because like the foundation is there.
So you bring up you're launching a new location, and I'm curious
Mhm.
now that we've talked a little bit about like what does the business look like for a studio for you. What was the decision factors for you of like I have one operating well, it's time to do
Yeah.
another one?
Yeah. So I feel like I've been on this hunt for the past year. Okay. I've had it in the back of my mind of like, it'd be so cool to have a second location. But then this winter was really like a push of, okay, there's obviously a need and the demand is there because I had weekends that were booked solid this winter from morning to night. Saturday and Sundays are kind of prime time. And I had people reaching out like last minute, hey, my client doesn't want to shoot outside in the cold. Like, do you have anything available? I'm like, I simply do not have anything. Right. And so that was kind of my push of okay, the demand's there. There's really no other studios in the area. I was the first one to start this. One just recently opened up, but the demand was there. And so I'm like, okay, I want to create a second location. And so the first location has 3 rooms. And so that's very versatile. It has like a bedroom, a lounge area, and a white room. Well, the white room is kind of most popular. I feel like white is trending in the photography world. And so this space that I just am opening now is like the white room times 100. I'm like, okay, people love this one room and I mean, it's decent size, but it's also small. I'm like, imagine if I had that times 100. So I feel like this is the best of both worlds. They, you know, they kind of have their own vibe, but like same seamless experience. That's kind of what I'm preaching is like, I want you to walk into a space, have everything you need to create whatever you need, like tripods, speakers, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, posing chairs. You know, you can create variety every single time of people that come back every time and their photos always look different. So that's my goal is to create a space that is versatile.
As you're breaking all of this down, I just keep thinking of Cody Sanchez and how she talks about a lot of, she calls it boring businesses, but
Yeah.
essentially like buying these viable businesses that can run without you. And the
Yes.
business model that you have for your studios sounds like it is doing that already for you. And coupled with your 5-year, 10-year plan, eventually you're not going to have to do very much, which is so freaking cool to me. I
Yeah.
would love to get into a little more of the specifics behind maybe some of the memberships, if you're open to sharing about that, because that's a question that we've heard lately from some other photographers. How do you approach running memberships as a studio? How does that work?
Yeah. So I will say that memberships are not like the bread and butter of my studio. I want to continue to grow them, but I feel like people just naturally go for the hourly rentals, even if they're renting often. Um, but I do have a few set people that love the studio subscription. So what that looks like is a 3-month commitment and it's a discounted rate. So they get like 2 hour-and-a-half rentals each month and then it's discounted. So you're saving money versus, booking one-off rentals. It's a great opportunity to be able to, like, predict your income, for the next few months, or you might know, like, "Hey, I already have my rent covered just because I have studio subscriptions," right? But that's something I'm still learning and growing and navigating, but I will say, like, hourly rentals right now are kind of the bread and butter.
That's cool. I appreciate you sharing that, especially because, perception is reality and we may have assumptions about how one business profits, and that may not always be true. So it's cool hearing the behind the scenes look
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
that.
I would love to share one more thing real quick on that too. So another thing that I have learned is seasonal setups are a great moneymaker. So twice a
Mm,
year, I have two setups. So what that looks like is I have a spring and a Christmas, and those generate anywhere from like 3 to 5 thousand. So what it looks like is like for 2 weekends only, I have the studio completely decked out. Perfect
mhm.
for photographers that want to come in and create mini sessions, but they don't want to buy all the props and decor and stuff. Saves them the money there. So they rent the space. It's a higher price point. But it's very exclusive and limited. So I will say that is a good moneymaker, and you can kind of predict, okay, if I launch Christmas in September, October, I could possibly generate X amount. There is quite a bit of work as far as like, creating like elaborate setups that people actually want to shoot in. But then you can kind of resell the decor after, repurpose it next year, switch it up, things like that. So that is a good way to kind of predict your income for, spring and Christmas time as well.
My logistics brain is now curious of like how far ahead of the season do
Yeah.
you do the special event? Because like if a
Yeah.
business wants to have photos for Christmas, how long before Christmas are they taking photos in the studio for you?
Yep. So my Christmas setups usually run like the first 2 weekends of November, and then I usually launch them in the fall, which typically sell out pretty quickly. But then after the setups are over, I keep a Christmas tree up all the time until January 1st. And so even if people don't rent those setups, they love family photos next to a Christmas tree. So I encourage people to have that because Christmas time is a really good season for the studio.
If you were to get to give advice to someone considering opening their first studio, do
Mhm.
you have any ways of determining like what the type of demand or where they should be placing it based on
Yeah.
not having their own first studio rental to be basing those numbers off of?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely do some market research, start seeing what's in your area, check out their Instagram, who's tagging them, is it getting booked a lot? Maybe rent it yourself and kind of get a feel for the experience, but also like what do those spaces provide that maybe or what they don't provide, honestly, that you could provide. So I think that is huge is like really just looking at your competition. Also, do you have a great photography community? So in my area, like I'm going on 9 or 10 years of photography. I honestly forgot. So over those years, I have built, really good community of photographers. Like I know all of them in the area. There's actually a lot of new ones that I don't know that I've gotten to know through the studio. But because of that, plus being a brand photographer, I'm like, okay, also business owners can use the space. Like I have the connections that I know like they would love this and I can, share about it. They follow me, they know me. So it's like that part came easy just because I already had that community built.
I would love to get into the marketing side because
Yeah.
you market so well. And I think I have a theory you probably have more to the way you market the studios than meets the eye. And so I'm
Hmm.
curious about hearing at a high level, what
Yeah.
is the marketing funnel, for lack of a better phrase, that you use for the
Yeah.
studios?
Obviously, social media is great, but in person connections is huge. So I am very involved in a lot of in person meetups. A lot of the times they're with other business owners. And so every time I go to those meetups, I take cards. I take cards
Mm,
that talk about the studio. It has a QR code, great. But then I also recently made discount coupon cards. So $20
Cute.
off. So they get both. I talk about the studio. Everyone knows like I'm a studio owner, but also I've had those business owners in the studio to create content so they see it firsthand. Oh, yeah, social media is great, but also just in-person connections, right? And just
Mhm.
putting a face to the brand and just sharing about what you do and how people can use this space. Because I think that often opens up their eyes of like, oh, I don't have to be a photographer to use space. I can come in and create reels. I can come in and sit down and just work. Like, I think that is huge as well.
I am curious, do you do any, you mentioned in person, do you do any quote unquote old school marketing like flyers other than the business cards?
Not necessarily flyers. I mean, my cards I do put up on like bulletin boards, like local businesses that have the bulletin boards or gas stations or whatever. But I also have like a banner out front. So people that walk past my first location, there's a banner that literally says what the studio is. It's more than just the name, right? I want to tell people like how they can use space, QR code, website, socials. So a banner's great because my first location has really good in-person traffic. People are just constantly walking that street. It's a really cute community. But then at my new location, I'm also doing that is I put up window clings that same thing. Like as people are
Hmm.
walking by, they are going to see what's coming in this space real soon and it talks about like how they can use the space, all that. So I think that's a great idea is like, don't just have your logo on the door, right? Like have more information because when you see a studio, you might just think, oh, that's a photographer studio. Like, I can't use
Yeah,
it? So I
right.
think that is really good too.
Recently, I've been finding it really interesting talking to more people about the idea of going back to some of these like old school marketing type things, like business cards or
Yeah.
things like that. And a couple of weeks ago, we were visiting one of my best friends, and we walked into a bike shop, and he was asking about getting a bike fitting done. And they were like, "We don't do it, but we have this person, and here's a card with it like
Yeah.
10% off or something like that." And they were like, "We're not affiliated with them at all. We just like what they do." And just by that other place creating the cards and just giving them to the bike shop, like it was very complimentary businesses that it was super easy for them to be like, here's their thing, you should go talk to them. For you as a studio owner, have you found certain types of businesses are complimentary for your studio?
So I would say for that, honestly, a lot of my photographers are also walking marketing because they're usually tagging the studio on Instagram. I try to reshare. And so that's a great way too, that like maybe even if my cards or flyers aren't correlated with a specific business, like in person, I think even just virtually, like I have all these people that are marketing for the studio as well. So now I'm at a point with my first studio of like, if I don't post anything on Instagram, I feel like it's fine because it's already like a well-oiled machine. It's running. Often, my renters are doing collaborative posts, things like that. So it almost makes Instagram easy because I'm like, I don't even have to post if I don't want to because I already have my established core like repeat renters plus people
Mhm.
kind of marketing the studio for me online too.
I am curious, how much of an advantage do you think that you had already being plugged into the community as a photographer on getting those original core clients that then became ambassadors for the studio? Did that play a big role, or were there other actions that you took to bring in those ambassadors?
Feel like a mix of both because I feel like I've already built a strong trust with my community of photographers, my community of business owners, just from building a personal brand that people feel like is authentic and that they can trust on socials. But then also, like I said, there's this core group of photographers that are newer, right? And so there's a lot of renters I have, I'm like, I didn't even know. And so I've tried really hard to kind of connect with them, from them renting the studio to me like commenting on their social media posts and just building that connection even further. So that way, hopefully, they will share about the studio to their friends. I've actually had that. Like a lot of new renters have told their friends about it. So I think if you can build a really good core experience that is seamless, but also a space that they walk into and they're like, oh, I love this. Like I want to tell my friends about it. I think, that building of relationships with renters just kind of like
Yeah.
keeps
Mhm.
going.
Yeah.
In prepping for this, I was doing a little bit of looking on your website, and I think one of the things that I found really interesting is you had a section where you talked about open content days or ways to bring people into the studio that might then turn into customers, or at least that was my assumption. Have you found like doing things like that to bring foot traffic into physically seeing the space, oftentimes converted into people that would then book in the space again?
Yeah, so I did do like a grand opening where I had the space open, and I will say like when that happened, it wasn't really that great. Now, I do want to do something with this grand opening that is going to be different. So I feel like I learned from that one, okay, people just coming in seeing the space, maybe that didn't work out how I wanted, but this time I want to be more strategic with it and create like a content day for business owners or maybe like a photographer meetup kind of thing where they can come in this space. Maybe they could shoot, maybe we can just hang out. Like, I want people to truly see the space, but then also maybe just be able to use it for free. So I'm kind of working on how I want to strategically plan that. I would probably also offer like discounts when they come, So maybe having like an open content day and then be like, hey, if you love the space, here's, a discount code to come back. Right. And also, maybe all of those people are going to tag the studio on Instagram. I'd probably encourage them to do that as they're posting their content. So that's kind of my thought process is trying to create more of those events, bringing people in the space that will convert even more.
I am hearing three main things that you do with your marketing. For one, you make it a main event whenever you're the grand opening. I love that. How do we make it an event so that we are making a splash right away? And then building off of that, how do we build retention so that people stick around and
Yes.
incentivize them to tell their friends and peers about it as well? And the way that you operate with a mix of you're on top of your social game for sure. I know you use
Mhm.
TikTok, and that's another route we could go down too, but you use TikTok and Instagram, but also hearing about the signage like that
Yeah.
alone is something that I definitely don't think about running an online business.
Right.
I'm curious. This question has been swirling around since we started the conversation because knowing that you went from renting a photo studio to then owning a studio, that's a pretty big jump as far as switching from, I'm going to call it an employee mindset to an owner's mindset. Like,
Mhm.
you operate much differently. What are
Yeah.
the things that you had to take into consideration or learn in order to run a studio really well, just from a leadership standpoint?
Yeah. So I definitely had to take more of that management role, right? And making sure like people get into the space, they get out. But also like the hard part is being that person that has to like determine the rules and then confront
Mm-hmm.
people if they don't follow them. I feel like that part is a little awkward for me because I want to be like this super nice business owner, right? Which I am, but then at the same time, when people like disrespect the rules, like you
Right.
kind of have to take on that responsibility of, okay, now I'm the boss and I have to confront them. It's
Mm-hmm.
a little awkward at time, but I feel like I've gotten a good system where I'm like, okay, like at the end of the day, this is my space. This is how it runs seamlessly. There are rules for a reason, and unfortunately, I just have to enforce them. So that part was kind of like the learning curve of like the
Since
rental side of it.
That's a huge learning curve, especially because
Yeah.
you go from being the one who's like abiding by the rules to now you have to be the one enforcing the rules. Like, that's a big
Yes.
jump. So
Yes.
totally hear that. Since you brought up systems, I
Yeah.
would love to hear more about that because everything that we've been talking about, the amount of time and effort involved in running one studio plus another one. So now two studios,
Yeah.
that takes a certain amount of time. I would love to hear, how do you manage your time? And are there any systems or tools that you have in place
Mhm.
that help you run both studios efficiently?
Yeah, so I definitely try to automate as much as possible. So, my booking system is pretty much automated until the week of the rental. I have to send out one email, but other than that, like it's very hands off. So, I love Acuity for scheduling because I just have a scheduler embedded into my website and everything is on there. So, I have like a contact form, little check boxes where they have to agree to the rules, the contracts on there, they pay up front everything is so seamless, right? They get automatic emails once they book saying like your reservation's confirmed, blah, 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 all the things. And so that has been a huge lifesaver where everything is automated until the week of. So usually once a week, I sit down. I just did this morning, and I sent out my quick studio info emails. And what I do is I copy and paste. So I have a note on my computer that has the whole email and the door code and everything. And I just copy, paste, send, bam. So honestly, like that part of managing it takes very little time because I have everything automated and like set up and ready to go. And then once they rent, it's just kind of like making sure that they get in on time and that they leave or they don't have issues. So maybe that means having my phone on me on the weekends just to make sure if they text me and they have an issue, I can respond. But yeah, honestly, automating as much as you can because at the end of the day, like I want this to be a time saver. And I feel like because I've done that, it is. Like it really doesn't take much time. The other time that I would have to commit to it would be like cleaning the studio. So that also, I feel like people have done an amazing job at like keeping the space well kept. And a lot of that is again from having systems in place in the studio, signage that
Mm-hmm.
talks about where things are, what to do before
Yeah,
you leave, kind of thing. Or sometimes I outsource the cleaning to my grandma and I pay her so I don't have to go and do it myself.
I love it.
So yeah, really just kind of having systems in place from your website, scheduling, sending out the emails, and then at the studio having, signage and systems in place there to make it very easy. Like I don't want people to have questions at the end of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give them everything they need. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
seamless experience. And I've had people compliment me on that saying like, wow, that was just you've done a great job making this a very easy experience. And then they come back every time. So
I love that.
At the beginning of the conversation, we kind of started this with the idea that a lot of you opening studios is about time freedom for yourself.
yeah.
When you think about the amount of time at this point it takes you, what's like a weekly average of how much time you're doing all those things you just talked about?
Honestly, I should track that. um, I would say probably like not even 2 hours. I think it depends. So if I have a shoot for myself at the studio, then, I do a quick cleanup or whatever. Maybe that takes me 30 minutes ish, give or take, and then plus the emails. So I feel like 2 hours or less typically. Um, Sometimes I'm, posting on Instagram if I'm making carousels. That's kind of a time bandit. But I try to keep it pretty easy and straightforward on Instagram with the studio. Like I just don't put a lot of pressure on me to like make it this perfection curated, thing. But right now with opening the second studio, I'm definitely devoting a ton of time because we got the keys, we're in there renovating, moving in. So that is definitely where my time is going right now. But once it's up and going, I would say like 2 hours or less each week, if I had to guess.
Not bad.
Since you opened the Instagram carousel door, I noticed that launching a new studio has a new Instagram account for it.
Yeah.
Can you talk at kind of like a high level, the idea behind like splitting out all of your studios into their own accounts and how that has a different content strategy than your main photo account?
Yeah. So actually, I love this because I struggled with this when I was first getting ready to start the second studio. Okay, like I want them to be sister studios. I want them to be intertwined. I want people to know that it's me running them, but they're also separate. So I don't want to confuse my audience. So what I did for this to make life easy is we do have two separate Instagrams, the studio on Samson, the studio at Grand Prairie. And I think that's important because when people go to those Instagrams, they're going to instantly know what the space looks like, what renters have created in there. I feel like if they were merged together, people would be like, wait, what location is this? What location is that? And I don't want to create that confusion, right? But with that, I have merged them into one website. So originally I was going to do like two websites, two booking schedulers, all that. And then one of my friends opened up that door of like, well, why? Like, why not just make it seamless? I was like, okay, maybe you're right. So it's funny because I actually worked with Courtney from the break room. We connected, and she has been a lifesaver on merging these two studios. So what that looks like is my overarching domain is the Flourishing Studios. Okay, but I'm not really referring to them as that. That's just like the domain. And then with that, we have Studio on Samson, the Studio at Grand Prairie. They share one scheduler, but they have two locations. So again, everything is the same, right? The same prices,
That.
same rules for the most part, same seamless experience, but they just simply pick their location this time. Um, so that's been nice because then all of my reports and, financial side of things are all within Acuity under one account and I don't have to toggle back and forth. So that's kind of where I've been at. Both studios have their own domain. So when they put in the studioontinson.com, it takes them to that page. So all of that has been nice. And I'm still kind of learning the ropes of how the Instagram's going to go. I'm sure it'll be a little tedious as far as managing both, but overall, I feel like it makes sense to keep those separate.
From a physical building, like you have the opportunity of like location specific targeting, whether that's geotags, whether that's SEO for a specific area.
Yeah.
Do you see that is something that is really easier by splitting them apart, or does that matter at all?
I think so because my studios are roughly like 30 minutes apart. And so I love that I have this new location because I've already had people say to me like, "Oh my gosh, you're so much closer. Like I'm so glad that there's going to be a studio here." But it's nice too because 30 minutes apart where I'm from, like people don't mind driving 20, 30 minutes. It's, nothing. So I feel like I can still attract my OG renters, but I can also attract people that are 30 minutes outside of that new location. So I do think location does matter and like using the geotags, SEO, I've had people also travel, which is crazy, like an hour and a half to my first location because they found me on Google. So I have been putting a lot of focus on SEO within that website and that has paid off. Like people will travel if you have something that they simply don't have in their area. So I think that's important. To focus on your website, Instagram, TikTok, all that. Definitely.
Yes. Did you just on the marketing side, because we've covered the website, Google,
Yeah.
socials,
Yeah.
in person. Did you start with one marketing platform and then build on top? Or were you doing some of these approaches simultaneously? What did that look like?
I feel like I started on Instagram. That's kind of, where I kicked things off. And then as I've grown, I've kind of expanded into like the in-person. We obviously have Facebook. So anything I post on Instagram goes to Facebook. And then I had the website built. And then over time, like within the past year, I really focused heavy on, okay, let's update the website to be SEO optimized and focus on getting those Google leads, getting Google reviews, all of that. So I feel like now it's at the point where it's like kind of doing everything at once. But Instagram's kind of where I like to start. And then we just kind of build. Instagram and obviously having your website done when you're launching is important. Right. Yeah.
Well, and the nice thing about things like a website or Google is once they're set up, they're set up. And so unlike socials where there is a little bit more consistent posting, that part can kind of run on its own in the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I am curious because we've alluded to the second studio quite a bit. We have some specific questions on the new studio.
Yeah.
But I want to start with what did you learn from operating your first studio that helped you in launching a second? Was there anything that you did differently?
I feel like everything's going to be fairly the same, but as far as starting the business, I have a very, very clear vision of like what people like to use in a studio now, what people maybe don't like to use. All of my rules and like automations, all of that is going to remain the same. There's a few differences, like the new studio cannot offer boudoir photography due to it being like all windows, ground level. But that's the bonus of having second location. Like, hey, can't offer it here, but Studio on Samson's great. Second level, house, bedroom, all the things. I feel like a lot of my differences also are coming with like the design side of things. So in this one, I'm gonna have like a lime wash wall. I'm gonna have like arches, white floor. Like I have a lot of things that I just simply couldn't have in my other location due to how it was set up. So that's why it's so nice though, because like they're similar, but they're so different. And so I'm excited to be able to like implement different design aspects. I feel like this studio, my second one I'm opening, is truly like my dream location for my own business. And so that's kind of how I'm going into it is like, okay, this is my dream spot because honestly, my first location, there's several spots in there that I don't even like to shoot just because it doesn't match my photography style. But other people love it. Like the brick wall, I personally like just don't like reds when it comes to editing. So like I don't love it. I will use it
Yeah.
if my client wants me to shoot with it. I have other people that are obsessed with it, right? And so that's what's nice too is like you kind of figure out what photographers like, what they don't
Mm.
like, and I feel like I have a good mix of both. So that's a bonus.
You just touched on the importance of not only running a business for you, but paying attention to
Yes.
what the clientele needs. And I
Yes.
think that is such a important undertone to call out because
Yeah.
it's a great reminder.
Yeah, I feel like whenever I'm doing refreshes in the studio, I try to pull my audience of like, do you guys like this chair? I might sell it. Do you know, what do you like? Like, what do you guys want? Because at the end of the day, like, I want to create a space that truly feels like magic, right? I want them to walk in and just be like, oh my gosh, I feel so creative. So it's like, I'm always looking for ways, like, how can I elevate it? How can I take this to the next step, right? Like, what I have is great. People love that. But me, I love change. I love making little changes just to make people want to come back too, right? And so I feel like that's also important to like create that experience.
I think one of the last questions that I have around like building a new studio, you made the comment that for this one, it can't be boudoir because
Right.
there's a lot of people that can look in the windows, which raises the question for me of how important is local foot traffic around a studio to choosing a location to build a studio?
Yeah. I will say, I feel like people will drive anywhere.
Mhm.
Foot location or foot traffic, my bad. I don't know if it's super important, but I feel like with this location, I'm going to be learning that because it's in a outdoor mall. When I originally saw this space and it was at a mall, I was like, okay, I've never thought about putting a photo studio here. I was simply
Mhm.
just shopping with my daughter and like the windows, it's so hard to find commercial spaces with windows. I guess
Right.
people like working in the dark. I don't know. But I was like, those windows are killer. Like that would make a stunning photo spot. And so I just like reached out, like, hey, I don't know if they would offer this because it's by appointment only, right? It's not
Mhm.
open 24/7 and they were all about it. And so this location I feel like will be a learning curve of seeing how the foot traffic works because as I'm working there now, I'm constantly seeing people walk by and that's why I wanted to put a lot of emphasis on having, signage on the windows of
Right.
what the space is because then they kind of stop and they check it out and whatnot. Whereas my other location, yes, there is foot traffic. It's on, a cute little street in town, but a lot of it is just locals, walking the town and whatnot. I do think people stop and see, but I feel like it might not pull in like the right audience, if that makes sense. It's just
Mhm.
Mhm.
kind of getting eyes on what the business is. Whereas this, I feel like there's a lot of young people shopping the mall. I'm right next to a Home
Mhm.
Goods, Old Navy. Like my ideal people are shopping around me. And so I feel like that will open the door of them kind of seeing what it is, be like, oh, I could use that, or maybe young girls come in with their friends, I don't know, and take Instagram photos or something, or prom photos or whatever. So I feel like that would be kind of fun to see the difference between the foot traffic because it will be heavier at the second location.
Have you ever kind of like looked into, I think it was a few years ago, there was the trend of like selfie studios where like there was fun
Yeah.
backgrounds and stuff that you could go in and just like take
Yeah.
fun selfies. I never went to one, but in theory, I
Right.
understood the business.
Yeah.
For something like this that has more foot traffic, is that something that you would be willing to entertain of like, here's like a 5 or a 10-minute spot. You can just come in and take some selfies and you don't need a full hour?
Maybe I would have to like brainstorm on that. Like, would I want to sit there all day? Would it be worth it? Because again, at the end of the day, I'm like, I want to make money while I'm sitting here at home chilling and not have to be there. So I
Yeah.
think that's
Right.
kind of where I'm at. Is like financially, would it be worth it? Not sure, but maybe if I opened it up on like homecoming dances, like that day, I feel like maybe
Hmm.
that could be worth it. And maybe I wouldn't have to be there. Maybe I would just unlock it and then come back and lock it up. I'm not sure, but definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
I like
This
the idea of
my
like putting a spin off that with like business owners. Like they come in and create their content and they pay for
Yeah,
like a day pass where they have access, but maybe like there's a
that's
group
fun.
of people, it's not just you in the space, but it's a
Yeah.
cheaper rate, like $25 for the day. And then I don't know. That could be
Yeah.
something to play
The
off
day
of.
pass is a cool idea.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
you do like the Disney theme park season pass, and like every Monday we have content days, and
Yeah.
whoever has the
No, I
season
love
pass
that.
can come in on Mondays.
Okay, my wheels are turning. Got ideas. I like it.
Oh,
I
man.
like it.
So that kind of brings us into lightning round as we're starting to wrap up here. A couple questions we like to ask most people that evolve a little bit.
I'm going to say the first question is actually going to be like a surprise. Lyndon was not planning on this,
Okay.
but
Okay.
when is the grand opening for the new studio?
Yes. So hopefully June 1st. My goal is sooner because I wanted to open in May. But as you know, with renovations, it's like, oh. So June 1st, I'm like, the door's got to be open. But if I can get open sooner, then I will. But it's kind of just a waiting game. So we have like less than a
Exciting.
month.
All right. Next question.
Okay.
What's a typical day in the life for you as a business owner?
Oh gosh, every day is so different. And I feel like that's why I love it. But then sometimes it's a little harder to create a schedule. But my schedule definitely revolves around when my daughter is at preschool. So we do like 3 days a week, and those are like my set work days. So today it kind of looks like an at-home day. So we have podcasts, we're trying to grind out all the edits while she's at school, things like that. And then I love to turn off work once I pick her up. So usually that's like 3:30, 4 o'clock. Maybe I'll work on my computer for an hour past that, but oftentimes I try not to. So after that, it's full mom mode and just kind of balancing, being a mom, a wife, house, all that good stuff. And then really trying to get a lot of my work done when she's at school if I can. But sometimes, some weeks, it's not always possible. And right now, like yesterday, my family went with me to work on the studio. We built furniture together. And so that's kind of what our day looked like, was no computer work, but we're in there, grinding it out and trying to get it ready together. So every
I
day
love
is
it.
different, honestly. Every
It
day is
ebbs
so
and
different.
flows.
Yes.
No, that's fun. We always enjoy hearing just what does it look like for different business owners, because everyone's life and routines and approaches is slightly different, and I love hearing what it looks like for everyone. So that's really fun. Who are you learning from right now?
You guys. No, seriously though, like being in the break room, I feel like has been awesome because I've been able to connect with other business owners. Like I said, I've hired Courtney, and it's been so life-saving. And then being able to like connect with you guys and just creep on the news feed and kind of see what everyone's up to. And I'm serious. Like learning
We're
from you
glad.
guys and attending the calls and things like that. I feel like I always leave so empowered. It's just nice having that community aspect to be able
Well,
to
thank
bounce
you.
ideas off of. Yeah.
We're honored you're in our space.
Yes. Yes. You guys are the best. So if anyone wants to join the break room, little plug, you gotta check it out. It's so worth it.
Shameless plug. Links in the
Yes.
description.
Yes. It's so
As we
great.
kind of round out here, we just wanted to save some time. Did you have any questions for us?
I don't think so. I guess, how about from an outside perspective, if you were to rent a studio, what would you want to see or have, or what matters to you when it comes to experience, rules, all the things?
I always look for lighting and
Okay.
backdrops. I want
Yeah.
access to good light, a clean space. I don't like clutter. I want it
Yeah.
to feel open. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to have high ceilings, but that's a fun, nice to have if
Yes.
it
It's a good
does.
bonus.
So open, good lighting, backdrops. I don't really end up, whenever we've done content days at studios, we typically don't use their props, but if there's chairs, we'll utilize those. So chairs
Yeah.
and stools.
Okay.
Usually we bring our own props. And then as far as timing, typically we'll do 2 hours. Maybe we can get away with 1, but 2 hours seems to be a good sweet spot. Am I missing anything?
I think the one prop that I'm kind of a sucker for is apple boxes, just because they're good for like propping things up oftentimes. So like
The wooden
doing
boxes.
Oh, okay. Like yeah.
the
I
wooden
got
boxes.
some of those being made. So that's
Yep.
great. Okay.
Just because like they're really good, like, or if you're sitting on a stool and you want like a leg propped up or something like that, like sliding a
Yeah.
box under works really well. I think the other thing for like backdrops is I love like the like 4 or 5 options. So in like a short amount of time, you can create a lot of things. Just because oftentimes you don't want 11 variations of the exact same photo. So how can you add a lot of variety fairly quickly? And I love places that have a lot of different options.
Okay. Any rules that maybe you've rented a studio and you're like, oh, I hate that rule,
Yeah,
or you think it's a
I
good one?
don't like it when they ask you to take your shoes off.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm
Yeah.
respectful of it and understand like sometimes like that is necessary. But like if I don't have to, that's so much easier for just moving around and getting things done. Otherwise, usually they're pretty straightforward. Like I understand no food or drinks. Definitely get being on time, leaving on time. So
Yeah.
nothing
Okay.
really.
I think I'm a fan of the like no confetti or like stuff like that, just
Yeah.
because oftentimes when we have used studios with that, there's still like sometimes we have to do some cleaning when we get there.
Yes. I know. I make
And
that a hard rule. No confetti, no
Hmm.
glitter. Because, yeah, that's the thing is like, I want the next person to walk in and not have to clean up, right? No one wants to spend their time cleaning up
Right.
after someone else. And I don't go after every single person to clean,
Hmm.
like I don't have time for
Right.
that. So that's one of the rules.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
then I don't have to do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
That's a good question. I will say, like, one other thing that I really enjoy is we've used a studio before that has a gallery so that if you've never used the studio or if you are a photographer with clients and you want to show what the studio looks like, they have images that you can download to just visualize for people. This is a space that we're working with, or with the seasonal props, this is what it looks like for Christmas or Valentine's Day. I really appreciate that extra addition to the process too.
I like that. Yeah, that's good.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, thank
I
you.
like
This
it.
has been really great. We loved hearing about how you run the studio. All the behind the scenes things are so fun to hear. Really proud of you for just how you have grown in your business and how you continue to just go the next level. It's been really cool to just see you continue to grow over the past
Yeah.
couple of years. I feel like you were just unstoppable. So thank you for
Thank
being
you.
so open about things today. Where can everyone find you and connect with you if they would like to learn more or book a session with you, either as a photographer or in either studio?
I am over on Instagram and TikTok at Always Flourishing Photography. So that's kind of where I share a lot of the brand photography side, but I also share a lot of tips and tricks for rental studios. And if you want to see the studios, you can follow me over on Instagram at the studio on Samson and at the studio at Grand Prairie. And I would love to connect with you guys even further over there.
Well, guys, go connect with her. We'll leave those links for you in the description for easy access. Thank you, Hannah, so much for your time and all of the things that you shared today. It's been really valuable. And thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed today's conversation, would you do us a favor and leave a review sharing what you liked about it? And if you want to go a step further, share it to your Instagram stories and tag both us at Joe and Lyndon and at The Sustainable Creator and Hannah at Always Flourishing Photography. We're so grateful that you stuck around. We'll see you next time. Bye.